Today, we're diving into an idea that pretty much flips everything we think we know about value and success completely on its head. It's all about the upside-down kingdom.
All right, let's just jump right in with a question that honestly feels totally backwards. What if everything you've ever been taught about power, about success, about what it takes to win at life is just wrong? What if real, actual strength isn't found in might at all, but in weakness?
Yeah, I know. It sounds wild, right? But this idea actually comes from a letter written by St. Paul. It's this pretty shocking statement that seems to praise being foolish over being wise and being weak over being strong. And here's the thing, this isn't just some one-off line. The sources we're digging into today show that this is actually the key to unlocking a totally different way of thinking.
So this upside-down logic, as we're calling it, isn't new. It's a theme that pops up again and again in these ancient texts. And it basically sets up this huge contrast between two ways of looking at the world. On one hand, you've got the wisdom of the world, what's practical, what makes sense to us. But on the other hand, you have the wisdom of God, which, well, it's like it's operating on a completely different frequency. It's a logic based entirely on love.
Okay, so to really get how these two different ways of thinking clash, we're going to do a little time traveling. We're heading back to the 7th century BC, right into the middle of a super high-stakes political drama. And trust me, for the people involved, this wasn't just some abstract philosophical debate. We're talking about a matter of life and death, of national survival. So let's set the scene. You're in this tiny little kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. A young kid, Josias, has just been put on the throne after his dad was assassinated. So things are already tense. And to make it worse, looming over them is the Assyrian Empire. The massive superpower of the day. And they're demanding total allegiance. Judah is what you'd call a vassal state, which basically means they have to pay up and bow down just to survive.
And this is where we get to the heart of the conflict, a huge disagreement. On one side, you've got the king's logic. It's all about pragmatism, right? Hey, we're a tiny nation. We can't fight an empire. It's better to be a vassal than to be completely wiped out. Makes sense. But then, on the other side, you have the prophet's logic, and they're saying, no way! They argued that making a deal with a foreign king showed you didn't trust God's alliance. They were warning that if you bow down, you're going to lose everything that makes you you, your identity, your faith, your whole reason for being.
So you've got this huge battle, pragmatism versus faith, human wisdom versus God's wisdom. The big question is, who does God actually side with in all this? Well, the answer is found by looking at a very, very specific group of people.
The prophets, guys like Zephaniah, they had a special name for this group, the Anavim. It's a Hebrew word, and it literally means the bent down or the curved. It's a powerful image, right? It's talking about people who know they don't have power on their own. They're not putting their trust in kings or armies or empires. Their only safe place, their only real source of strength is God.
Okay, so who are these Anavim in real life? Psalm 145 kind of gives us this incredible list, like an inventory of God's top priorities. And spoiler alert, it's not the rich and famous. It's the oppressed, the hungry, the people in chains. It's the blind, those who are totally overwhelmed, the stranger, the widow, the orphan. You see the pattern here? It's this super consistent, deliberate choice to side with the very people the world tends to ignore.
And all of this leads us to what our source material calls the ultimate declaration of this upside-down kingdom. You could even call it a manifesto, and it's one that's about to completely redefine what it even means to be successful or happy.
It kicks off with this line, "Happy are the poor in heart." Now hold on, this isn't just about money. The sources are pretty clear on this. Poor in heart means being spiritually humble. It's about people who are looking for God more than are looking for worldly success. They're open to receiving everything as a gift instead of trying to earn it all on their own.
Then you get this next line, which I get it, it can sound really jarring. Happy are those who weep. But this isn't about saying suffering is good. Not at all. The idea here is that these tears are actually tears of repentance, for our own mistakes, or they're tears of deep compassion for all the injustice and pain we see out there in the world.
Now think about this one for a second. Happy are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Seriously, in our world, who inherits the earth? It's the powerful, right? The aggressive, the go-getters. This statement just flips that completely on its head. It says, nope, the real inheritance belongs to the gentle, the nonviolent, the meek.
And here's another one that's a total reversal of how things usually work. Happy are the artisans of peace. In a world that's so often defined by conflict and division, this puts the highest honor not on the winners of wars, but on the people who actually build peace.
Okay, so what's the really crucial insight here? This list of happy people, it's not just a to-do list. It's not just a bunch of rules to follow. The sources we're looking at describe it as a self-portrait. Jesus himself is the one who perfectly embodies all these qualities. He is the poor in heart, the meek, the merciful, the peacemaker. He's basically the living, breathing blueprint for this whole upside-down kingdom.
All right, let's take a step back and pull all of these different threads together. We've seen this idea pop up with the prophets, in the Psalms, in the Apostles' letters, and in the Gospels. So how does it all fit? How does it become one single coherent message?
Well, here's the pattern when you lay it all out. Step 1. You start with our human default setting, the king's logic, which says power, status, and strength are what matter. Step 2. You get this constant counter-narrative, the prophet's logic, that chooses the complete opposite. Step 3. This counter-narrative champions the Anavim, the humble, the poor, the people on the margins. And finally, step 4. The whole thing culminates in this radical reimagining of what it means to be happy and successful, and that's the Beatitudes.
And just like that, we're right back where we started with that quote from St. Paul. But now it doesn't sound so weird, does it? It actually feels like the perfect conclusion to this deep, running theme we've been tracking. The wisdom of this kingdom is found in what the rest of the world calls foolishness and weakness.
So, what's the big takeaway? Why does any of this matter to you and me today? Because this is so much more than just ancient theology. It's a direct challenge to how we measure value in our own lives right now. The logic of this upside-down kingdom kind of forces us to ask ourselves a tough question. Is my own personal definition of success built on the king's logic of power and status, or is it based on the prophet's logic of humility and service?
So we've spent this time exploring a kingdom that seems completely turned on its head, an upside-down kingdom. And that just leaves us with one final big question to chew on. If this kingdom is upside down, then which way is really up?